हेलो 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 हेलो
Good morning, Ravi sir.
Good morning, Vijayji. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes. So
Okay,
we are
thank you.
waiting for the other panelists as well as few guests. So after that, we will just start by sharp 11.
No issue. I am here only.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ma'am. Finishwari, ma'am.
Good morning, Dr. Rizoy. Sanya.
Sat ngembang-ngembang kok.
All the participants are requested to mute your microphone. Good morning, everyone. We start the event shortly. Actually, you are the first panelist, Bhushan is joining soon. Okay, so a warm morning to each and everyone. So, on behalf of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences and the Program of Social Work of Assam Downtown University, we extend our warm welcome to this national level panel discussion. So, this panel discussion will be held on social work and environmental protection, bridging the gap between people and planet, in association with the National Association of Professional Social Worker in India, NAPSWI. So we have different participants, students, practitioner, academician, and from the different parts, including the students of our department, Assam Downtown University, Assam University Silchar, and other colleges of the Guwahati and Northeast. So, with the warm welcome, I hand over the session to our chairperson, Madam Dr. Paditi Varman, Dean in charge Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, to continue the session. Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bijay. Very good morning to all the participants present here and the distinguished panelists here. I, on behalf of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Assam Downtown University, welcome you to this national level panel discussion on social work and environmental protection, bridge between people and the planet. We are organizing this panel discussion in collaboration with the National Association of Professional Social Workers in India. Today's panel discussion is the need of the hour in the context of the environmental crisis the world is witnessing at this moment. Crises like pandemics, climate change, leading to various natural disasters and man made disasters, geopolitical turmoils, displacement, etc., has created a situation where we felt that there is a need to come together and have a discussion on these different issues which are all of us. So to do this, today we have five distinguished panelists with us. Now, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce all our panelists to all of you. So first, we have Professor M. Gangabhusan sir with us, who is a professor at the Department of Social Work, Assam University, Silchar. He has completed his MSW from Swami Ramananda Tirth Marathwada University, then postgraduate diploma in labor laws from Swami Ramanand Tirth Marathwada University, and PhD in social work from Assam University. His area of interest are in labor welfare, women in unorganized sector, human rights, and advocacy. Throughout his academic career, he has served more than 15 years in the Department of Social Work in India. He has published 5 books and 5 peer-reviewed publications in proceedings in 10 international conferences. Then we have Professor Tineshwari Devi Madam with us, who is currently positioned as the professor and head of Department of Social Work at Assam University, Silchar. She received her PG from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which is known as in Mumbai, a MPhil from JNU, New Delhi, her doctorate from Assam University. She is the author of a book titled Reproductive Health and Adolescent Girls and books in her profession. She has extensive research experiences and completed a project for Central Social Welfare Board. She is a life member of National Association of Professional Social Workers in India and life member of Northeast India History Association. Then we have Dr. Ravi Ranjan Kumar, who is currently serving as the head Department of Social Work, Rajiv Gandhi Central University, Arunachal Pradesh. He has nearly a decade of teaching experience at Rajiv Gandhi Central University. An alumnus and gold medalist of Delhi School of Social Work, University of Delhi. His research interests include education, health, governance, political equality, social justice, and empowerment. Young Social Scientist Award by the Indian Social Science Association and Research and Academic Excellence Award by Institute of Institute of Institute of College, Assam University, Silchar. have a which comes up in also have a 2 dozen conferences, paper presentations, and contribute to a in capacity development person for solution of few. The fourth panelist is Mrs. Garyashi Datta, who is currently associated with Downtown Hospital, Guwahati, Assam, as a psychological counselor. She pursued her MSW in medical and psychiatric social work from TIS Mumbai in 2003, certified in addiction management from NIMHANS, diploma in community mental health from NIMHANS. These are the diplomas and certificates she holds. And she also a certified career mentor. Besides this, she is currently pursuing PG Advanced Diploma in Mindfulness and Presence-Oriented Psychotherapy from TIS Mumbai. She has a special interest in substance use, children and art-based counseling, career mentoring, and mindfulness-based process. The fifth panelist for today is Dr. Satish Kumar. Dr. Satish Kumar presently working as the Assistant Professor, Department of Social Work, Kurukshetra University. He was the former principal and dean University. 70 events in the field of research. The area of interest is rural development, health and development, mental retardation, special education, and addiction, CSR and human resource management and labor laws. He has delivered 27 talks, presented more than 65 papers in various national and international forums, has 33 national and international publications, authored 2 books, 8 chapters in books, and 10 minor and major research projects under his leadership. So, with this, now I welcome all the panelists and I request Professor Gangabhusan sir to deliver his thoughts on the topic. Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Very good morning to all of you. Am I audible, please?
Good morning, sir. You are
Am I? Yeah. My dear and all nine offline. Last time I will get, madam. Can I share my PPT? Pratiti ji.
Yes, sir. Yep. 15 to 20 minutes.
So, oh, very good. So in between, yeah. I'm just sharing my PPT. Uh, is it visible? Is it visible?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah, you can see now.
So your Gmail is, you can see the Gmail.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I think I'm extremely sorry. Now it is visible, my PPT.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry once again. This is what I thought of talking to you. I have already consumed two minutes. We have in the beginning only the background has been emphasized that now there is a widespread realization that we need to work on environment. So I have coined very specifically environmental justice because with very clear perspective of why I am using this environmental justice here. To begin with, this is what we are baffled with several challenges, maybe climate change, energy depletion, deforestation, and biodiversity loss on one side. On the other hand, we are in the race of unregulated growth. That is what the crisis is all about. We are in the race of unfettered market forces which are playing a significant role. This is the crux of the matter. Environment, whenever we talk, who is consuming more, who is at the receiving end of environmental destruction, these two things we have to focus. And in these two things, on one side climate destruction is there, on the other hand unregulated growth is there. When these two things are going on together, there is a need on the part of social work to talk about environmental action. So now the question comes, where exactly social work lies? Most of the time, social work is being criticized by saying that social work don't question the status quo. This is what generally is being observed. So within this critique, how we can make changes to address these major issues of climate change. We have seen that mm, this, of course, my other co-panelist will talk about what exactly sustainability is. But again, the key word of sustainability is how we ensure quality of life for the people. And what quality of life is, they should have healthy, productive, and meaningful life. And when it comes to sustainability, we talk about both the present generation and future generation. So that is my presentation is based on that, how we can ensure this healthy, productive, and meaningful life for the current generation. And United Nations also comes up with the definition which talks about a comprehensive nature of sustainability, social, economic, environmental, okay, and how we can use these Earth's resources for satisfying our needs, and as well as for satisfying the future generation without impinging resources recently, environmental justice word has been added by United Nations. Earlier, it was confined to social and economic justice. Now there is an inclusion of the word environmental justice. So, which gives an impetus for all the social workers to talk about environmental justice. And this environmental justice concept has to be seen from rights perspective. It's not that we are doing something favorable to them. It is the right of every individual. So the entire prism of looking at rights-based perspective is very, very important. And how can we ensure that? I have already said. In order to make them feel that they are living in livable condition by ensuring their basic rights. This is what the crux of the matter when it comes to United Nations definition to address environmental issues. And when it comes to social work, of course, our focus is on vulnerable sections of the society, because whenever we on we always keep exactly whichever natural disaster or environmental destruction it comes. Okay, and what kind of strategies we should take in order to stop escalation of the population, pollution, etc. This is what we have to think. And as we know that from social work point of view, most of the time we talk about person in environment, PIE, PI approach. And PI approach talks predominantly the social aspects, the power relationship between individuals and individuals' environment. Sometimes changing in the individual is needed, sometimes change in the environment is needed. And whenever we talk about PI approach, and this is predominantly talking from social aspect. So that's how this is the limitations of this approach. But however, what is important when we are talking about the concept of environment in social work profession is we have to go beyond the goals of individual well-being. We have to go beyond the goals of social welfare. Then only we can talk about the protection of the environment. But in the process also, we are trying to ensure the protection and safety and welfare of the individuals. I'm not saying at the cost of individual welfare we are going ahead. We are taking into account the person's individual's welfare also in the comprehensive goal of sustainability. And then only we can say that this person in environment in true sense can address the environmental issues. And this is not an individual's responsibility. It's the couple of individuals or groups or communities. In order to address these environmental issues, we need to have collective actions at every level, micro, meso, macro, all levels. There has to be collective action. Then only we can make a little difference in the environmental issues. And what exactly we should focus on in social work is to focus more on environmental responsibility and care culture. Can we think of promoting this responsibility and care for the environment? So this is what we have to think of. And in doing so, as IFSW has also reiterated, advocacy skills and other strategies are very, very essential. Now we are talking about 21st century skills also. This is very timely, very important for social worker to pitch in to address these environmental issues. As I said, that our concern is predominantly will focus on the poorest and most vulnerable sections of the society, because who are typically inhabit degraded environments. So they are at the receiving end. To cite one example, there are many developmental programs come. For example, Jaduguda mines of Orissa, Jharkhand, that area. So there uranium ore is extracted, and the uranium ore is transported to Hyderabad. They make uranium, pure uranium out of it. And again, the residue they bring back to Orissa and Jharkhand, they dump there. So this is what, who are at the receiving end? We have to think here, and this is really critical on the part of social worker. So it's not that engaging people only for environmental protection. We have to see at macro level who are the big actors who are acting here. So corporates, even macro level in countries as such, there are developed countries. We are at the receiving end of their residue. So these are the issues to be pondered over. What exactly we do? We normally talk environmental education to only the people, only the communities, from grassroots to policymakers, from all the policymakers. Every actor should be part of it. It should not be just a community. Why only community take the responsibility when they are not the cause of it? So it is a time to think to whom to be responsible, who well the cat, we say. So this is very important. Second is information is power. Most of the time, information is power. Unfortunately, this macro politics, macro linkages are not being clear to the people. So it is the responsibility of the social workers to bridge the gap between micro level activism and macro level policy change. These two things are there. We have to connect the people through information, and information is not an information. Information should be strategic information, so that people get strategic information, so that they can make changes in their behavior. Livelihood approach, most of the time we talk, can we think of properly integrating all the aspects in environment? Can we think of, like, the poor who are at the receiving end, can we think of scope for enhancing their livelihood in promoting environmental issues, in promoting environmental sustainability? So, so any policy that we are taking, let the people also feel, because of my participation, no doubt there is change in my livelihood, my life, but at the same time, I am also contributing for the cause of the environment. So that kind of thing has to be there. Whenever we talk about the social forestry and joint forest management has utterly failed, because people never thought that it is their program. They thought that it is government's program. After independence, people started devastating cut of forest was there, because there was a perceived notion that ye sarkar ka zameen hai, ye sarkar ka forest hai, ye sarkar ka. So the moment it is not being generated as source of livelihood, and the moment it is not seen as what you call ownership, then problem arises. Second thing is volunteerism. Now the government is spending a lot of money on promoting volunteerism. Now next month, government of Assam is going to give 1 crore plants. So volunteerism is one aspect, but more than that, can we create a culture where people respect their choices of behavior, whether I should use polythene or plastic or biodegradable product? Can I have that choice? Can I have that awareness? There comes the role of social work. This is another important, because because of because of the consumeristic culture, because of the corporate culture, because of there is a big gap between haves and have-nots. Those who are having, they are more carbon emissions. If you take the example of carbon emissions, America is in the front. Are we in a position to question those macro level power players? This is one. But people who are at the grassroots, people who are at the degraded level, they are at the receiving end. Whether it is climate change, because of climate, people are migrating, resorted to distress migration from one country to other countries. And same thing happens within state also. Underdeveloped districts, people are migrated through. So there is again unequal and unjust power equations within the state, among the countries. But our focus is, can we think of building community resilience? That is very important. We are with the people, because ultimately we can question macro level things or the things, but ultimately when the disaster comes, we cannot talk about big things about policy change. We have to be with them. So this is what social workers role. Advocacy, when we talk about advocacy, it is talking on behalf of people. Voiceless people are there, they can't raise the voice. Can we think of giving voice to voiceless people? Can we think of addressing the basic issues, maybe clean water, maybe safe living condition, maybe live with dignity? All those things requires advocacy. So can we think of creating volunteers who can talk, go beyond their comfort level and talk about the others? And here in the entire process of advocacy, can the people be consulted? Can people feel that it is their voice has been heard? This is what social workers do promote. Then ultimately we are going to support, as I said, to promote community resilience. We have to support the climate affected people. We have to have soft corner for them. And in the entire process, we streamline their rehabilitation process. We streamline access to basic amenities for the people. And in the process, like Madam will speak on counseling. So the role of counseling is very, very, very important, because eco-anxiety is the concept recently people are talking, are being experienced by the vulnerable sections of the society, where social work, NIMHANS is doing a lot, and I really appreciate the social work profession, which is reaching to the people and entered into very critical areas of addressing eco-anxiety. Research, of course, what kind of research we produce is very important. In what way our research is going to promote evidence-based interventions, and in what way our research is going to make changes at the policy. This is very important. We need to introspect. Most of our research end up in the libraries. How often in other countries, universities are treated as the ivory towers of intellectuality. Universities are consulted before they go for any policy change. But unfortunately, in India, universities, researchers are ending up, they get salvation in the libraries only. This is a time to introspect in what way we can do. Green business initiative. Now with the advent of CSR policies, now corporates are asked mandatorily to do something for their environment, because they are, one of my scholar is working on cement industries. In the wake of cement industries are creating lucrative business for the corporates. Some livelihood is being created for the people, but at the same time, communities are at stake. What kind of initiatives? Now we talk about green initiatives, waste management, energy resources, all those things, and how optimal utilization of these things. So we can make use of corporate CSR policies, CSR practices to reach out to people to address the issues of environment. In order to just conclude, I say that when we talk about social work and sustainable development, both go hand in hand. Both talk about the same thing. Both talk about integrated, holistic system. Both respect the rights of the vulnerable and deprived sections of the society. And both social work and sustainable development talks about how to give benefits of, how to share the benefits of development to the people. So can we think of that they are also the equal important stakeholders of benefit sharing? So this is what the paradigm shift. And what is important is, we have not reached a critical mass. Actually, that is another important thing. We are addressing sporadically. There are many good initiatives are taking place in Karnataka, Kerala, even in Madhya Pradesh and other places. What is needed is, these sporadic events are to be seen in very consolidated way to address the environmental issue. And last, so we change our position. It is all about to reframe our perspective towards the issues by keeping the people at the center. And environment also plays an important role. And in the entire process, of crisis management, what is needed is we have to work both at micro and macro levels. connect micro level activism with macro level policy change. This will happen only if you have effective, sustainable collaboration with other helping professions. Then only we can reach out to, we can make pittance in the entire crisis of environmental deterioration. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. We will just move to the next panelist. Before moving to Dineshwari ma'am, I would like to welcome our professor sir who had joined the uh, discussion. So welcome, sir, for the
Thank you.
discussion. And now, sir, would you like to say a few words?
Not as such, ma'am, but I would like to concede that faculty of humanities for organizing this kind of discussion, panel discussion, and choosing that very relevant topic because it is related to the environment and environmental problems require the participation of each and every individual. Otherwise, it is not the only responsibility of the government or the society alone, or the environmental engineers or environmental subject matter experts. Until unless each and every hand is not participating to overcome of these challenges, environmental challenges, we cannot resolve the problems, related problems. And we have not to be ignorant to the environment because each and every moment we are respiring, and that is a live activities. And without that environment, you're not getting that fresh air, clean air, we cannot survive. If you will not get that clean water, we cannot survive. So we are the bios, we have no ecosystem where how we knowing that expecting the environment effectively, and if it is not sustainable, link is going to impact us only. Moreover, if you see the eco pyramid, top level people are being extended, the bios of that the top level, and now our turn is going to come. So that's why it is an alarming situation. And if we are not going to do that, definitely it is going to the impact, and there may be the chances we may also extend from that nature. So with these words, just and best of luck to all, each and every, and especially our students. They are the future national builder. So that's why that I request them to participate effectively and listen that the experts carefully and try to churn out those ideas and adopt and do the and adopt in practices daily life. See that from the morning itself that we are wasting of the very clean water. We are lucky enough still, but many part of the Guwahati, even Assam, if you see that everyone is not so lucky enough. So if you are getting plenty of the resources, if you are wasting in the view of that it is not going to end, then that is a wrong notion, wrong things we have to, in wrong way we are taking that. So that's why just with these words, I hope so that everyone is going to learn from the experts and exchange the ideas, exchange the views. Okay, all the best to everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words. So now I thank Sir Ganga Bhushan sir. Thank you so much for your thought-provoking presentation. And now we will move to our next panelist, Dineshwari ma'am. Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, ma'am. You are. Yeah, ma'am. So you can
Thank
take
you.
15 to
Thank you,
20
Preeti
minutes for
ma'am.
your presentation, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, madam, for giving a detailed introduction of all the panelists, respective Honorable PVC sir, all my co-panelists, their scholars and their students. Um, I'm very fortunate to be part of this panel discussion because of this. Um, I will be able to present my perspective on community health and environmental social work. I could not make a PPT because give my perceptions about this community health and environmental social work. So I will start explaining from the until my delivery and try to look into the social and I will try to focus on the social response to climate change in terms of public health aspect. Um, if we look at the environmental social an approach to social practice, it focuses on ecological, environmental sustainability and justice as a hallmark for development. Uh, my previous panelists had already explained environmental justice and, of course, the sustainable environmental first to social work and knowledge base techniques and promote environmental justice. If we look at India, the environmental challenges are now a met all here today. Still, development, this soft area for the social workers in interfacing environmental issues. Of late, the terms environmental and green social work have gained a prominence in social work literature as well, which our mentioned about the green social work. Um, green social work is an evolving and responsive field of social work that deals with environmental inability in human population, instability in human population. In fact, is a holistic approach to social work practice, focusing on the engagement among people, interactions, and interpersonal behavior, a social organization, human relationship, in terms of their social and skilled environmental are determined to develop of on the contemporary change. Now, climate change continues to families, groups, and communities to are in marginalized section. because of their poverty levels, because of their loyalty, and because lack of due to poor water availability, malnutrition due to drought, or imbalanced diets. And it's also seen that geographical spreads of pathogens due to unclean and unsafe water. And women and children are the most vulnerable to those waterborne diseases because of the roles they execute in water collection and other domestic activities. Um, Further, if we look at in the rural area, rural people are crippled with webs of poverty, trapping them in every dimension. They are unable to meet the medical costs during the illness times of family members. And these climate change is worsening the situation as there is a shortage of water for both domestic use and livestock, resulting in most of the households sharing water sources with animals and making them susceptible to different waterborne diseases because they are often forced to drink dirty and unsafe water, which was already highlighted our honorable PVC sir also. That's why even the IFSW is committed to promoting health affairs of social work clients when they are neglected and compromised by the disaster due to climate change. The quest of the social work practice for enhancing human well-being can gain prominence when social work practitioners strive to ensure that the physical environment of their client is safe from the health hazards, including those diseases which was being caused by the climate change risk. And some of the public health social workers' response to the climate change discourse, if we look at the role of the social worker, the first would be the education on climate change, because social workers play a very important role, a significant role in helping clients in understanding the climate change, mobilizing people to protect environment, and also promoting the use of low carbon resources and use of renewable resources instead of using non-renewable resources. And social worker as an educator in the institutions or in different universities and colleges should bring environmental subjects into discussion during the social work training. In the recent times, when we introduced NEP 2020 in the curriculum, it's been said that, or it's been ordered from the Supreme Court that in the value-added courses, environmental science subject has to be made a compulsory subject in the graduate level. And if you look at the marginalized, vulnerable, and oppressed individuals, we need to support. As a social worker, we are duty bound to support the already vulnerable and marginalized groups by ensuring their voices are being heard and that climate change related decisions are considered their needs. So we social worker also compelled to help communities, families, and individuals to find healing and wholeness from the calamities posed by the climate change. So we social workers need to ensure that the basic needs of the individuals are met through linking them to the different resources and make them sustainable. And if you look at public health workers role specifically, it mainly focus on the promotion of positive health behaviors in the development lifestyle of the individuals, families, and groups, and enhancement by the environment and avoidance of risk. So they often assess the health needs of the target population and determine the association between the social and environmental factors and note down the incidences of the health problems. So accordingly, the social worker, we plan and implement intervention strategies based on the level of prevention, such as reducing the social stress associated with climate change and other health problems. And the practice of public health social worker is conducted within the context of multidisciplinary setting where social workers can participate strongly with we often collaborate with educational institutions, with NDRF, SDRF, DDMA, and many other health-related professional organizations to support policy development and legislative action to promote health and safe environment. So with this, I would like to end my deliberation on this topic. So thank you, madam. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your thought-provoking deliberation of community health and mental environment and the role of, the challenging role of social workers in this context. As you and Ravushan sir, both of you are having some engagement and you need to leave the meeting. So I would request the participants if they have any queries or questions to sir and ma'am's presentation. Uh, Please go ahead and ask, and we can have a discussion. Anyone? You can write the questions in the chat box also.
This shows either they have not heard anything or they don't want to disturb us.
Or if they have any queries, they can mail us. We can give our email ID. We can respond to that email ID also.
We can share our email ID. Yeah, that is good suggestion.
I think there is a question, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this question is for who?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible. Vijay, you are audible. Pratiti Burman, you can just read the question
Yeah.
for the benefit of audience.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
the
Fieldwork action plans we can promote at the macro level. It's from Dr. Bijay Das.
Who is going to answer?
Anyone
This is
can
for whom?
answer. It's not addressed to anyone.
Okay, okay. Vijay,
So you can also answer.
okay, just I will share one thing. Whenever we say field work, it is part of a training with certain objectives. It's a guided interaction, guided intervention, guided interaction, guided intervention with to increase teaching learning method about social realities. This is what. So the purpose is very clear here. But what, as he is saying that in what way we can promote macro level, maybe he's intending to say the policy change. That is only possible when we can successfully consolidate the social realities that is coming from the field. And this is the predominantly the responsibility of the faculties, the research scholars, researchers. And if that can be connected to the macro level, as I said in my lecture also, I said university's role is that actually we are working at grassroots. We know better than anything. We are very good at understanding micro level realities, but unfortunately these micro level realities are not reflected at macro level policy change. It's a big, even association can do a lot. Teachers association can do a lot, and the research that we carry out, if it is reaching to a logical end, many researchers have been studied on various topics. If it is reaching to the policymakers and if we lobby for it, proper lobby, then I think there will be very good connection between micro level fieldwork activities with macro level policy change. What I feel. Dr. Bijay.
yes, sir. Yes, we got it, sir.
There is another question by Suman Hazarika. It's not that clear what the person is asking. Can you describe some of the main programs or services offered by the organization? So
Which organization?
I think this organization, it could be either government or non-government, not clear.
Suman Hazarika can be asked to elaborate. He can be unmuted.
Yes. Suman Hazarika, am I audible to you? Can you be a little more specific about your question?
Because the organization means there can be government organization, there can be even private organizations, NGOs. It's very vague question. There are many services also. Again, vague questions.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Huh?
We can only respond vaguely by stating that there should be collaborative effort with different organizations working on various aspects of environment. We cannot work, we are not expert, we may expert in one aspect, but the moment we reach out to the organizations who are working on various aspects, maybe someone is focusing on women, someone is focusing on Divyangan, others are focusing on from environmental point of view. So what is needed is locating, understanding, establishing proper relationship with different organizations with a collective vision, mission, shared values. If we talk, then I think this is one of the important strategy that we can say social work can bring in. Dr. Raviji, am I audible? Was it okay? Because organization, we are not experts, right?
Or if you are talking about how the public health and the community health worker relating with the different organizations during the disaster time, I had already spoken. If in that line, then I said it has to be collaborated with the different service organizations. We have different NGOs are there. We have different governmental sectors are there, including we have NDRF are there, SDRF are there. We have every district, we have a DDMA is there. So with all those, even the educational institutions, like the social work department, we can all join together to work for this uh, disaster management.
I think both ma'am and sir, all both of you are stressing on collaboration and collaborative action, which is the need of the hour at this moment. Because as sir has mentioned, we have been doing a lot of work in sporadic ways, and it needs some kind of collectiveness, and that too in the context of in the perspectives of human rights, and having and ma'am stressing on the education, having some knowledge of environmental sciences is very important, and stressing on that part is very important for the social workers, so that we can have a better understanding of the environmental degradation or issues which we are facing at this moment at the individual level and at the community level, and how do we address these issues in a more collective way. So with this, I guess we can end your session, and we thank you once again for taking out time from your busy schedule and being part of this discussion, and we look forward in future that we have more collaborations when it comes to having this kind of academic discussion. Thank you, sir and ma'am, for your valuable time
Thank you so much, ma'am, for
and
giving this
insightful
opportunity.
sessions.
Thank you all the co-panelists. Dr. Ravi, we could not hear, we won't be able to hear you
Thank you.
because of some. Thank you so much.
It's always an honor to connect with you, ma'am. So,
I think organizers are recording, right? If they can record it.
Yes, yes, sir. We are recording it.
Now I would like to request Dr. Ravi Ranjan sir to deliver his talk. Am I audible to you, sir?
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I think I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
So at the outset, My sincere most greetings to Professor Pranveer Singh, the Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Pratiti Burman, the Dean, Assam Downtown University, Professor Ganga Bhushan and Professor Tineswari, who are also like my teachers. My greetings to Dr. Vijay Dasji, other faculty colleagues, and all the participants, including my fellow panelists, Mrs. Datta and Dr. Satish. All the participants, including some of my beloved students, a warm greetings to one and all of the social work fraternity present here. It's a rare opportunity for me in recent past to talk to the social work fraternity. We have been engaged in so many programs of the university, but it has been mostly that I have been interacting with the other discipline students and participants, because especially our engagement with NEP and other documents. So I'm thankful to Vijayji and the entire team of organizers that have considered me worthy enough to be a part of this program. And I believe my slides are visible, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for the confirmation. At the outset, I would like to provide a disclaimer that internet in my university at this moment is a bit unstable. So if anyhow I get disconnected and if I am not able to reconnect for 2-3 minutes, you may please proceed with the program. I'll share my PPT later on. So moving further, as you all are aware, the topic of the session, social work and environmental protection, bridging the gap between people and the planet. So before I start my deliberations, for the participants, I would like to clarify that I am not going to share with you any much of theoretical knowledge, or for that matter, any final advice to you. In social work, we believe in self-learning and introspection. So this session of mine is dedicated to invoking that level of introspection and self-learning among each one of us to an issue which is really going to bother, if not bothering at this moment, really going to bother us and our future generation in years to come. And in the prelude, I would like to share with you the opening lines of the Bridging the Gap report by World Wildlife Fund for Nature, which they have published in 2022. And the lines state that currently we are facing a planetary emergency, the interconnected crisis of natural loss and climate change, and the increasing risk of pandemics derived from zoonosis are threats to the
Ravi, sir. Am I audible? So can you hear us? You need to unmute, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I think there should not be any issue because I have muted my camera and I have connected with two devices. Now, this is the challenge when we are staying in this remote part of the country. So, I would like to continue with my PPT, but just a second. In between, if the participants have any query, they may simply drop the question. I will be brief in my deliberations and we can take it one by one once the deliberations are over. I'm starting my PPT again. I hope the slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
All right. So without wasting any more time, I would just like to proceed with my deliberations. As discussed, it is about a self-introspective kind of thing that I wanted to draw your attention upon. And there are some data set which I have derived for the benefit of the audience to have a look into it. The next slide that I am going to share is about safe and just earth system. It is about the Earth Commission report which has been published recently. And if we see to it, we will find that we are already in danger zone of almost all the 8 components. So it is for all the social work fraternity and the younger generations to reflect and realize that what should be our immediate and long-term role. Our previous panelists, as I told, they are very senior people. They have reflected at both at the micro and the macro issues. But without getting into those theoretical underpinnings, I would like to request all of us to introspect that what best we can do in the larger interest of our future generations. Not much to look into this, but if we see the 3 components of biodiversity, fresh water and fertilizers, they are the main concerns that I am going to show a slide upon, and I will not be taking much time, but just to be drawing your attention into the some of the data set which need attention of social workers. If you see the data on infant and child mortality, we are among the highest in the world. If you see the data of hungry people in the world, again we are among the highest of the hungry people in the world. And the last message, which is most important, that over 20 crore Indians will sleep hungry tonight, of which 7 crores are children under 5 years of age. If we see the next data set, it is about farmers committing suicide. These are all the preludes which I am making when we are going to deliberate on the concept and the practice of green social work, which social workers need to be increasingly aware of and practice in their own jurisdiction and domain. The air we breathe is the next slide that I'm going to share with you. And it talks that which kind of an atmosphere we are living in. The average age, if we see, we have already lost nearly 5 years of age because of unhealthy air in our country. Now, what can be more alarming a situation than this? Next in the row is the water crisis. If we are accustomed of reading newspapers and going to genuine media houses, we will get to know that while the IPL cricket grounds are flooded with water in terms of their maintenance, almost 70% of the country's population in the scorching heat of the country is struggling its most to get its fresh drinking water. And when it comes to the most affected, it's the women and the children who are the most severely affected, if I may have the liberty to generalize. In a country where we have almost 84% women as anemic and 53% stunted children, this is a serious fact that I am trying to draw your attention upon. Water crisis is going to further loop if we are not going to look into the situation with utmost sincerity. 30 of our cities are at severe risk, and like few of the cities in South Africa being declared as desert cities, if we the social workers and our generations do not take care of it, we are going to face the crisis very soon. And not to highlight or repeat, but it is the poor and the marginalized who bear the burn most severely. Now coming to another issue, which was there in that report, the use of fertilizers and the side effects of it. We are becoming a cancer hub of the world. Earlier, we were the country with the diabetes capital as well as the cardiovascular diseases capital. But if we look into the scenario of cancer, a disease which is responsible for taking away lives at premature stages, I think we are again proceeding to be the world's hub. And see the factors. Many of the factors you will see other than tobacco and pan masala, pollution, pesticide, and toxins in food. So we are taking toxins, and thankfully to the policy making that we have been witnessing, all motivated by the profit motives, perform or perish. And when profits take over, human lives become a secondary thing. This cancer alarming data tells a lot about that. And if we further see what kind of a world we are living in, all around that you see and witness, it is about pollution, right from air, sea, land, water, visual noise, and anything you name. We are living in a highly polluted world. And see how this pollution affects. This is not a rocket science. We all have been students of environment and ecology. It affects all our vital organs, right from head to toe. So what best can be done, I am nobody to tell. We all are conscious human beings, and we have the responsibility to learn and analyze that what best can be done. Pesticides, how they affect the biodiversity, how they affect the overall health of our planet, right from pregnant mothers and children to the biodiversity in general, that is of flora and fauna. And directly, if you see, even 15 to 20% of the suicides are a result of pesticide cell poisoning. So there is not a lot that is to be stated, but there is a lot that is to be realized by each one of us. And that is how I told it is more of an introspective kind of a session that I wish to take, rather than preaching or telling you about what you need to do. Because it is not a rocket science to realize that what is good for our health, our planet, and our future generations. Another component that was again highlighted in that status of the Earth report, the biodiversity, the flora and the fauna. We are home to world's few prominent most biodiversity hotspots. And biodiversity is necessary because everything is interconnected in nature. And if one is affected, it is always going to damage the other. If you refer to Professor Harari in his book Sapiens, he clearly writes that human being was never a protector of nature, but it is permissible only till the extent it is not damaging our own self. So we all need to take a call that what best can be done. These are the biodiversity hotspots, and we are privileged to have these biodiversity hotspots in our country. But while they indicate the abundance of flora and fauna, also indicate that there is an acute need of taking care of this flora and fauna, because a significant percentage of that is in acute damage or danger of being extinct. The last issue that I would like to highlight upon is the CO2 emission. There has been Kyoto Protocol and number of other dimensions that have been taken care to look into. But still, what is the situation of Earth? We know that better. The 1.5 degrees Celsius global average temperature, I think, has already been breached, and which kind of a world we are going to live or survive with the rising water levels, I myself am no expert to talk about it. But we as younger generations, as the stakeholders of future society, seriously need to take a look on it. The CO2 emission targets that have been predicted in Kyoto Protocol, if you see the so-called developed countries, they are all in the negatives. So the very definition of development, the very parameters of development needs to be re-looked at, and that is what the focus of our topic, that is green social work, is going to be now. Though from the sources, but it is an interesting fact which is being reflected to you in this slide, that Earth's history compared to a calendar year, the modern humans have existed just for 23 minutes, and we have used almost 1/3 of Earth's natural resources in just last 0.2 seconds. It indicates the kind of development paradigm we are living in, and if we are not alerted in time, I don't think there will be much left for our future to harp upon or to look into. Now, as we have deliberated on the problem, it is my moral and professional obligation to also say with you of the human life, right from micro, meso to macro, everything is interconnected. And we as social workers and the stakeholders of the society need to be sincerely aware of that. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Absolutely audible.
Okay, fine, thank you. Being located in this part of the country, it's a serious challenge. Therefore, I request the organizers, if you have to call me, please allow me to be there in person. All right. Coming to the final few slides of my presentation, it is about the eco-social approach which International Federation of Social Workers has proposed. And they have this 5P model. Government, and which is also the core themes of this conference that we are attending today. So it is my moral obligation once again to discuss with all of you. So the 5P model is people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And I have tried to summarize it to the extent of not compromising its basic instinct, but still, the first component of people that it says is about leaving no one behind. The concept of Antyodaya that we discuss is the motto of this eco-social approach. Then planet, indigenous knowledge system. much talked about word, but how many of us are able to internalize its values when we say indigenous knowledge system? The wisdom that prevails in our cultural and traditional social fabric, we need to highlight, because it is more than established that the modern discourse of development is not going to take care of the challenges. In fact, it is aggravating of the ecosystem problems. Prosperity, as we talk about the motto of development, then prosperity in this sense implies sustainable social and environmental well-being. The next component is equally important, that is peace. But when we say peace, it is important to understand peace is not just about the physical peace, but it is about internalizing the concept of global citizenship and reciprocal respect. Again, very simple word, but a lot to introspect and realize upon. Reciprocal respect towards each and every component of life and nature. The last P is partnership, that is agreed solutions and joint actions, which my previous panelists have also highlighted. We many a times think that as academia, as policymakers, as social workers, as university goers, we know lot of things. But as we grow and learn, we realize that we don't know many of the things. So when it comes to solution, the best way is to find out the mutually agreed solution for a truly sustainable joint action. Though this formula needs a lot of rethinking, but I call upon my young participants to take a note of it and keep reflecting, because you will find your answers in due course. Now coming to the real concept of the green social work, which Lena Demanali has proposed in her discourse on the anti-oppressive social work in 2016 and 2012. And she provides something which I find equally appealing to me and equally empathizing with my emotions. When she says that current state of social work is a profession in turmoil, and I think that she is somehow reflecting upon its condition in India more than the global level. We are losing our recognition and credibility and our fiscal and conceptual support, both fiscal and conceptual, integrally and interconnected components. The reason that she cites is the dominance of the neoliberal model guided by profits, where I find one thing very prominent, where every form of human value has been replaced by one or the other form of exchange value. Our future generations, our young, our youth, and definitely all of us needs to introspect that the air that we are breathing is not that of oxygen, but this profit motive. And so we need to introspect that how far we can go with this exchange value model, where human value has taken a second seat. The Western model of consumption, urbanization, and industrialization, she says, is not going to be sustainable. And that's where she suggests that indigenous knowledge system needs to take its due. And she also says that ecological and social problems are not limited to any boundary. So the national boundaries need to be breached upon. And we have seen in COVID crisis, many of us are silent on this Ukrainian crisis also. But if we reflect from the green social work perspective, these are not limited to boundaries and are going to affect all of us in due course of time. So as I told, the last point that she suggests is the indigenous worldview and the post-colonial setting is the requirement. And if I am to further precisely make it, these are the 4 pointers that she suggests. We need to move away from this GDP-based growth model. Industrialization, which creates migration, is the cause of underdevelopment and oppression. So there is a need for social and environmental justice, a word frequently stated but rarely understood, and then bridging the gap between human and the nature is another call of ours. So now concluding, we as social workers have our mandate in praxis and problem solving. So we need to introspect and realize that what best can be done. This introspection also takes me to the critical reflection approach, where we need to connect our experience, self, and knowledge. And at the end, I would like to quote Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore ji, where he says, the highest education is that which makes our life in harmony with entire existence. On this note, sincere thanks to all the organizers, especially Assam Downtown University and NAPSWI. And these are my contact details. If anything that the team or the participants wish to ask, I am readily available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we shall move to the next panelist. We will have the discussion and question answer at the end. Is it okay, sir?
Perfectly fine, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So now I would like to request Gaurishi ma'am to kindly present her deliberation. Ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes, I'm just
Okay, ma'am.
trying to. Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to esteemed panel members, members from the social work fraternity, and the student social workers who have joined us today. To make up for time, I think I'll make it as brief as possible. My topic of deliberation today is climate change and mental health. One connection between climate change and human behavior is that for any action to tackle
Ma'am,
climate
your
change,
slides we cannot see. Sorry
you
to
can
interrupt.
see it's not
No,
visible.
ma'am. No, it's not visible.
May I request Dr. Vijay to present, please? Then?
Yes, ma'am. Wait.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
As I was just sharing, when we talk about climate change, the main cause is global warming. We all are aware of that. Now, the causes of climate change are also rooted in human behavior and human psychology. If we could go to the third slide, please. When we are talking about tackling climate change, it also consists of changing and reshaping our behavior and way of life. So we human beings have a lot to contribute towards climate change and also climate action. Next slide, please. You could go to slide number 4. Now, when we're talking about mental health could be for better or worse. We all go through our ups and downs, our feelings, but mental health is not necessarily just the absence of an illness or disorder. The component of positive well-being, how we carry on in our day-to-day life, how resilient we are in the, while facing adversity, also comes to the fore here. So when we are talking about good mental health, it is about protecting ourselves from mental illness and also having a sense of well-being in our day-to-day life, and how that is supported by the environment and community around us. Next, please. Now, when we talk about mental health, now how is it affected by climate change? When all of us go through stress and distress symptoms, I think all of us go through that, especially when we have to face the concept of flash floods, if I give an example of Guwahati city. But apart from that, there are some clinical disorders also that come forth, like anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicidal thoughts. Next, please. Now, to give a brief overview, when we are talking about the direct mental health impact and the indirect mental health impact that climate change has in our role. When we are talking about direct mental health outcomes, there's a worsened community mental health scenario. There's, as I explained a while ago, a post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma, suicide, anxiety, depression. And in indirect outcomes, we have what our first esteemed panelist had shared, the concept of eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety is much more common in the youth, and ecological grief or climate grief. Now, these symptoms do not require clinician intervention. Next, please. Now, I'm sure we will all agree that climate change is negatively affecting the mental and emotional well-being of people around the world. And though climate change has been recognized by the government and policymakers as a health emergency, but the emphasis is more on the physical health, and the mental health component is still overlooked most times. Next, please. In its recent position statement, the American Psychiatric Association has strongly stated that climate change poses a significant and growing threat to public health in general and to mental health in particular. Next, please. Now, I'll very briefly cover the climate drivers which affect our mental health as an individual and also at the community level. Increased temperature, extreme weather events, rising sea level, and extreme precipitation. Next, please. Now, when we're talking about climate change, it has direct impacts and indirect impacts at the community level. And accordingly, we see rise in new mental health cases, increased symptoms in existing mental health cases. There's increased mental health issues due to physical health issues led by climate change. There's a worsened community mental health scenario, and there's a sense of distress and eco-anxiety, as I shared a while back. Next, please. Now, when we are talking about increased global temperatures, it has long-term and direct effects and also long-term indirect effects, which I already shared previously. But there's one concept I'd like to share, which is recently also propagated by the American Psychiatric Association, solastalgia. That is a sense of loss of our traditional way of life and the climate that we all, went through. as children, we sit and reminiscence about it, but these symptoms of solastalgia, climate grief, or eco-anxiety, as I mentioned, do not require clinical intervention as such. Next, please. Now, what are the populations of concern when we talk about climate change and mental health? I'll just briefly go through. The most vulnerable are the children, who are more prone to distress, anxiety, and other effects of mental health. Next, please. And next population we have are women, pregnant women, and postpartum women. Stress symptoms are more frequently reported by women than men. And we also see a high prevalence of post-traumatic disorder among women. Next, please. The emergency workers and first responders, could be the healthcare workers, the public safety workers, they are more prone to mental health symptoms, as they are the first line whenever we are talking about any natural disaster. And about 30% of people who are chronically homeless also suffer from some form of mental illness. Next, please. Another symptom, this is commonly noticed during the winter time and is regularly recurring for persons who suffer from it, is seasonal affective disorder. The symptoms usually show up in the month of September, November, and continue till April, March, April. We are presented with symptoms of sleep problem, overeating, and cognitive function. Next, please. Now, how climate action will also co-benefit our mental health? I'll just take a minute. When we are talking about energy and housing, improvement in it will also improve our physical and mental health. When we are talking about green and blue spaces, this will help us in reducing our stress and anxiety level. When we are talking about less use of vehicles and more of cycling and walking facilities at the community level, this helps us in increasing our physical activity, thereby also reducing air and noise pollution, improving our mental health. And when we are talking about community action on climate change, it will also help, especially the youth, in elevating their eco-anxiety. Next, please. Now, very brief, no, I think we can skip that to save time. Very briefly, I'll touch upon the role that we as social workers could play. The first is advocating climate mitigation and adaptation within the health system. Raising awareness of mental health impacts of climate change among the general public, especially community level awareness campaigns. Next, please. Training of health workers, the primary level health workers, to identify and manage the mental health symptoms that are observed at the community level. Unless we are trained, we will not be able to observe or identify these symptoms. So more of community level training, especially for the primary care healthcare workers. And here I'd also like to touch upon the role of barefoot counselors, community level counselors who can engage in providing emotional first aid or psychological first aid in the event aftermath of a disaster, because I'm sure we'll all agree we don't have sufficient numbers of trained personnel to work at the grassroots level. So these are the ways we could reach out and cater to the needs of the community. We can also collaborate with researchers to strengthen evidence of climate change and mental health. Next, please. We can also engage in sharing of best practices across organizations. Like one of our esteemed panelists had already shared that MIMHANS is doing a lot of, I think, wonderful work in community mental health. So why don't we learn from that model? Why don't we learn from that interventions and use it at our communities that we work with. Sorry, we can also include the voices of persons who have gone through any climate change impact, because when it comes from that person, it's very easy and accepted by the community members. We can also use the mental health impacts in risk assessment and helping developing resilience in the mental care system. And I'm sure, I think we'll all agree, though I'm giving an example of COVID-19, I think the digital mental health services were a boon for most of us in the last 2 years, 2020, 2021. And coming to the last slide in conclusion, next please. What I'd like to state is climate change poses an underappreciated threat to mental health and emotional well-being, and the impact of it is largely ignored. But the good news is, when we talk about climate action, we see a lot of association in developing the mental health outcomes and improving mental health care. Next, please. I'd like to conclude by this quote. It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop. And with this thought, I'd like to leave especially our student social workers that how we could work towards providing basic mental health services or support to our community in the event of the climate change that we are facing in our society today. Thank you. I'll be open to questions at the end of the discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we would proceed to Satish Kumar sir's presentation. Sir.
Yes, please. Thank you. Just a minute, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
My slide is visible? Yes, Padhati ma'am, slide is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Thank you. Thank you. A very good afternoon to one and all connected physically and virtually. My warm greetings to all fellow panelists. First of all, I would like to congratulate the entire team who organized this very relevant discussion on social work and environment protection. Since I'm the last speaker of the day, and so many things I have to carry with me, and one important thing I can conclude from the whole discussion. If really we would like to bridge the gap between people and planet, approach that is collective approach to environment sustainability is required. So in my presentation, I am going to highlight the three major aspects. The first aspect I will start my presentation with the report which was published by UNDP on Sustainable Development Goal, one goal of Sustainable Development, that is goal number 15. Second, I will talk about why collaborative approach in environment protection is required and what kind of challenges are there and how we can overcome from those challenges. And last part, I will discuss about social work intervention part. So as Ravi sir already stated very many data-based aspects, how we are lacking in many areas and what kind of challenges we are facing. The same things are highlighted by the recent report of UNDP. And UNDP quoted that we know very well how human life depends on the earth. And this planet, life provides 80% of human diet, and the economic resources to great extent depend on agriculture. But how we are diluting the things by using pesticides and fertilizers, so we need to understand that particular part. Further, the report stated that since the forests cover 30% of the Earth's surface, and they are providing a very important source for clean water and air also, but it is critical for the combating climate change. 30 million hectares of forest we are losing. Degradation of dry land is also increasing day by day, and for that, marginal communities are affected.
Sir, your slides are not moving. We are still in the first slide.
First slide.
First
Just,
slide. Yes.
just. Now slide is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 15% of land is protected biodiversity, but still it is at risk, and nearly 7,000 species of animals and plants has been illegally traded. So these are the various challenges that UNDP has highlighted in its report on goal number 15. And at the last of the report, that it is concluded that some urgent action need to be taken to reduce the natural habitats biodiversity, which is part of common heritage, and we need to support the global food and water security, climate change mitigations, adaptation, peace and security. So these are the areas as highlighted by the report where collaborative approach are required. When we talk about the collaborative approach and background of that particular approach, nowadays scholars talks a lot about it is the right of the people to live in quality of environment. And environment talks about all living and no living thing that surround us. But there is a constant challenge imposed due to climate change that may be economic, it may be social, and it may be vice versa to environmental issues. And we have a very fine example of northern state you might be observing or reading somewhere in print media and through social media, what kind of challenges the state of, especially Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand is facing. So now that there is a question, or there is a, some represents the appropriate solutions of these challenges need to be developed. So again, in the Sustainable Development Goal, which was fixed agenda for 2030, everything is mentioned there. All human development plus environmental protection components are stated there. But if you see the scale, complexity, and interdependency of all sustainable goals, we need to consider the role of stakeholders. That stakeholder may be government, it may be intergovernment organizations, maybe there some civil societies, maybe there any social work, maybe one of the part. So when we talk about collaborative approach, only one stakeholder can't work. So we need to work together because we need a lot in terms of knowledge, in terms of new technology in the areas, expertise is also required, and we need to create resources, and that ultimately will lead to the creation of values for sustainability for the benefit of society as a whole. So only stating about collaborative approach, it will not work because a number of challenges are there. And the first challenge when we talk about stakeholder involvement in environment protection or increasing the gap. So those stakeholders may be from different sectors. The first challenge may be regarding the sectors component. Different region aspects may be there. Level of development may vary from nation to nation, from region to region. If you compare the Northeast with the rest of the India, so that again different we will find out. Again, priorities may be different, possibilities may be different. So these are the things which may pose challenges in terms of collaboration. So we need to develop a relevant approach or appropriate approach that may fit in the requirements, expectation, priorities, and need of that particular region. So right kind of talk, intervention framework for supporting regional and global sustainable partnership. It may be some new approaches and solutions need to be considered. Again, in UN program, if you talk about UN program, which set agenda for 2030, they highlighted that human development and environment protection are intervenes. So they may go hand in hand. When we talk about human development, it is generally observed that we are ignoring the environment part in that. And when we talk about environment protection, we may ignore the human development. So it was clearly stated when we talk about human development, we need to think about environment protection also. Recently, I was just studying some of the reports which was related to the recent crisis related to Himachal Pradesh. And in those reports, it was clearly mentioned that when there was a human development efforts by the appropriate agencies, they clearly ignored the environment part. It may be hydro power projects of Himachal Pradesh, where it was not whatever norms were framed by the proper utilization of the things. It was not applied, and maybe in terms of constructions of roads and other things where environment protection is not looking after. So it was stated a collaborative approach must be there, and these two sectors should work together. The first important component the report again stated, we need to think of environment and development as one sector. So these two sectors generally we observe that they are competing with each other. So developmental sector may work in different directions, and they may not follow the instructions and guidelines of environment protection. They might feel it is not required. So, but it is very much essential that we need to consider both this sector one only. And economists have always been welcomed by the environmental circles, and environmental people must collaborate with the environmentalists. So there is a need to develop the trust among the different stakeholders. Then another important component that United Nations report highlighted that we need to use the Sustainable Development Goals as a checklist. So whenever we are moving towards human development efforts, or you are going to construct something, some industrial projects, maybe there, some dams and minings may be there, we need to use sustainable development as a checklist, or where we need to check how that particular effort is going to affect the environment. Some negative impacts may be there, or it may be some positive forces may be there. So we must have one checklist based on the One Planet Living framework. So that is another suggestion given by the United Nations. Another important aspects the report highlighted that we need to support social enterprise. So nowadays, innovation, startups, and other new innovative fields are there, where social scientists are working day and night to ensure the development of the marginal sections of the society. And we might observe in many states, like especially I visited the Gujarat state, where I observed in village level, then remote areas, some solar power projects are initiated by the government. So those kind of efforts, social enterprise might be promoted, and those efforts would be environment friendly. And another aspect that is we need to educate our children about sustainability. I observed when children are educated about the environment and its sustainability, definitely in future when they grow up, they will talk about the environment sustainability. They can be the good engineers and designers, and they will displace solutions that are unsustainable. So that is another where we can work. So another fact, so in collaborative approach, obviously social work may be one of the partner. And when we talk about social work intervention, as our first speaker very rightly and nicely mentioned that social work always talks about people interact with their environment. So generally we study, we assess our clientele or our community with reference to environment, and we address the environment complexity, a different kind of transaction between people and the environment, what kind of transactions are there. And to deal with those transactions, or to understand those transactions, we use various kind of skills, different kind of tools. As Ravi sir also mentioned, one of the model where ecological perspective can be considered. Then to promote sustainability, we need to bring together, working with people, those who care, need to support people, and to create a culture of sustainability. Very important aspect where we need to work, that is culture of sustainability and people focus approach. So these are the two major approaches where social workers, being a social worker, we can work. Social workers are seen as expert, seeing potential cause of vulnerability as well as preventive measures. So as one of the participants asked about the fieldwork lessons, this maybe one of the area, because being a student, being a trainee, we knows about our communities and we may identify the potential causes of vulnerability. And workers are vulnerable sets should be included in the disaster risk and management team. So whenever you are going to work for the environment course, so we may be the part of disaster risk and management team. Their insight, including knowledge, what intervention work would work best for the specific communities, because from the students may work 1 semester or 2 semester with the communities and they know better what kind of intervention plan can better fit in the requirement of the community. Social worker has constantly tried to create an adjustment for his client group within their environment due to his professional long-standing focus on personal environment. We always talk about personal environment. And I was just going through one of the book written by Gray, Miss Gray and his colleagues, and they acknowledge the need for a paradigm shift within the field of social work in order to work to become more ecological aware and work to better understand and address environmental restriction. As Ravi sir also talked about the green social work. So this book is also highlight key where being a social worker, whatever traditional practice do we have, it may be micro, macro, another kind of interventions may be there. But along with that, somewhere we need to add this green social work intervention in our agenda, and only because of that we will be able to create that difference. So ecological awareness and better understanding of environment is required. We need to work or need to depart our responsibility to work towards achieving environment justice for all. So somewhere one of the speaker talks about environment justice. So when being a social worker, we are working for to create a healthy environment for it. So it leads towards the environmental justice for all. These are the certain roles. My fellows panelists also highlighted some of the roles earlier. So the first role, being a social worker, we can work that provide information for correct understanding of different aspects of the environment. Because we generally observe the environment is not rightly perceived by the stakeholders or by the community members. We may develop attitudes and values in the personality of people. So to great extent, it is a matter of developing right attitude and value among the people, and so that they can respect the environment. To motivate the community members to adopt a friendly behavior toward environment. Upon policymakers, to another role maybe to influence the policymakers. So whenever policies are framed, so social workers may play a very proactive role in influencing the policies also. Fix the responsibility for those employees. Another areas, a number of time it happens, the policies are there, but those policies are not properly implemented. So whenever policies are not implemented or enforcement agencies are there, so we need to work with them also, how to highlight those misdeeds. Discipline and understand scientific research, as my previous panelist mentioned that some researches need to be conducted with the help of other disciplined people. And very important aspects with reference to Northeast, that is contribution of indigenous group and community-based organization. During my visit to Northeast, a number of times I observed that the indigenous practices are there. So NEP also talks about these indigenous practices. So we need to understand, we need to study the indigenous groups and their community-based practices that is directly related to environment preservation, conservation, management. So we need to identify, we need to acknowledge documentation and highlight component must be there. So it's a very important aspect. Being a social worker, we can do in our fieldwork practices. We may identify the best indigenous practices with reference to environment protection. So we need to acknowledge somewhere. It may be through social medias also. It should be well documented, and we need to highlight that also, because rest of the country or rest of the community members can understand what kind of practices may be there, and as per their needs and priorities, it can be implemented. We need to boost grassroots level community structures, need to create create appropriate institutional framework for participation, be a part of movement of environment. So we have very fine examples of many movements, but we missed the social worker really participate in those kind of movements. So somewhere with the right approach, we need to participate in environment movements also. We need to teach how to use their resources wisely, sustainability, as well as their role, responsibility. So these are the various roles being a social worker we can play. And in conclusion, it can be stated, since the topic of this particular discussion talks about social work and environment protection, and we need to bridge the gap between people and planet. So only, I think social workers may play a very crucial role, but only social worker can't do anything. So we need to develop collaboration with other like-minded individuals also. And accordingly, whatever roles I discussed, I studied through various reports. So these are the various areas. If we are moving forward with these roles, I think in future we will be able to contribute in a great way. So with this note, I am stopping here. So thank you very much for patience listening.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would request all the participants, if they have any queries, questions, to come forward and clarify. You can drop a question in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself and ask a question.
A very good afternoon to all the speaker persons. Before I jump into my question, I would like to uh, give few of my perspective about this whole discussion. I would like to start with a quote. It was quotation said by Miyamoto Musashi. He said that we should think lightly of ourselves and deeply of the world. And the only thing I believe that human beings are superior than other beings in this planet is the only because of the ability that we can simply use tools, and that has taken us to very far distance today, and we can obviously see it through our own eyes. And the concern of environment or any other topic people talk a lot about, and it is only limited to social media screens. We only see in Instagram posts or WhatsApp status. For environmental day they would plant a tree, and that's the only limited. So my point is that talking will not take us anywhere. We have to take actions and steps. So what will be the the outcome of this discussion? I would really like to know about it. Are we going to like discuss and leave this discussion only here today, or we are really going to take some steps? And another thing is like the lifestyle, and that we talk about environment, but we have to face the reality that today's lifestyle has taken us so far away from the environment that we feel so much disconnected with it, that we are so far away and captured in this modern technology that we forget there is also another world out of it. And another question that I have is like, how can we bring behavioral change in individual where they can take their own step towards the environment, where the government neither anyone have to build such strict policies and command everyone everywhere, where people themselves become so conscious about the environment and they really start to live a quality life. Thank you very much. That's all from me.
I guess the question is open to all the panelists, so anyone can answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dhruva. Very rightly you mentioned, generally it happens whatever discussion we are having. So that may live after that day only. So I believe that whatever discussion we have, whatever my fellow panelists discuss about the various aspects of environment protection. In one side, they talks about the theoretical part, and second, they talks about practical component also. So the first thing I think we can do being a social worker, traditionally, if you see our fieldwork approach is totally based on some individual practices, maybe there some community issues, maybe their environment is not considered as one a big issue by the social work practitioners. So I believe that whenever we are going to field work, so environment, not only issues, but whatever I discuss, some best practices of the community may be there, some documentation work may be there. So I think that may be the one step towards that. So it is not like if from tomorrow you will be able to bridge the whole gap. But if you are putting some agendas regarding environment protection in your fieldwork practices, some researches may be there. Because if you see the maximum researches are related to unemployment, poverty, another kind of family disorganization component may be there. So somewhere ecological perspective we need to consider in our fieldwork practice. And if because students are always considered the understudies along with teachers. So if you're setting agenda by sitting with your supervisors, so that may be the milestone in that particular field. Thank you. I hope your queries is answered.
I think Madam may first proceed.
Yes, Ravi. Ravi, sir, you want to address something? And ma'am, Pariyasi ma'am too.
I was telling Datta ma'am may first respond.
I think what Dhruva is introspecting and reflecting about is exactly what Dr. Ravi tried to, present through his deliberations, that unless each of us, what forms a community, unless each individual, we do our bit, we will never go on to, intervene at the community level. So the fact that Dhruva, if I'm not wrong, who is asking the question, the fact that he's asking this question itself means that something about this panel discussion was effective. He's thinking about it, and he's also wondering how to go about it. And this is exactly, I think, one of the purposes of discussions like this. Now, how do we go at the intervention level? Yes, there are various components, and what I think Dr. Kumar has already shared. If we are student social workers, this can be definitely taken up at the institution level when we are going for our social work. And second point, I think what we asked is if we could take care of our environment. This is awareness, making a habit or breaking a habit, both are very difficult. Let us all, be honest about it. So the more we practice civic awareness, our civic responsibilities, bit by bit, we will, go on to develop that civic sense at the community level. That is, I think, what I would like to add.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
I do agree with ma'am. Actually, you have said from the beginning, when Bhushan sir also highlighted the practice that we have to start and we are doing at the micro level, and the individual sensitization is also important. Like as yes, the panel discussion has started, and therefore after this we and from the discussion we were having some of the I think curiosities to ask or to know. Like Dubo has asked one or two questions, and the thing is that yes, the discussion started. That's why our thought has already started. Like whether it will be limited only the discussion or whether it will be implemented in the ground level or in the reality. Yes, that's why I say sensitization is important and from the individual level. So being student and the individual person of the society, and as an academia, we are here to spread, I mean, the knowledge, awareness about the environmental protection, so that we can step forward. And I believe that our purpose of the discussion will bring certain fruitful results. About to you, Ravi Sarai. Ravi sir, can you hear us?
Can any of you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now it's clear, sir. From you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Network is an issue. I hope it is going fine now. I'm yeah.
So maybe you can put up the video and just talk. Otherwise, again, it's not coming. Your voice is not audible.
I'm trying. Let me know whether I am audible or not.
Now you're audible, sir.
Okay, all right. Quickly, Dhruva, I would like to come to a few pointers, and I'm so sorry for the network glitches, though I have no reason to be sorry, but I am sorry because it is creating a problem. So first thing is, Dhruva, hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll not take much, just 1 minute. Dhruva, if you can hear me, there are three things I wanted to highlight. My fellow panelist has already come to the point very nicely. There are certain things that we need to take up on individual level. And first thing that I was telling you, there are no panacea in social sciences. We cannot have a ready-made solution for many things. And second thing is, charity begins at home. So before asking others to do what they should be doing, we should introspect and keep asking ourselves and at our individual level that what changes we can do at our level. And the final thing that I would like to tell is the incident that I cited during my presentation, Mahatma Gandhi. Yours is the generation of technology, as you have told. Technology definitely is a challenge and is creating a lot of environmental issues, but it can also be a weapon of social change. And this is where the example of Mahatma In 1917, when he came to Bihar for the Champaran Satyagraha, he just visited around the places and looked into the real problems of the farmers. And when he was simply moved by their concerns, what he did, he started publishing their individual narratives in the newspapers. Simple. द ब्रिटिश एम्पायर जिसके बारे में कहा जाता था उनका कभी सनसेट नहीं होता है, a single man, just by publishing the narratives of farmers in the newspapers, forced them to kneel down against him. First they put him in the jail, then public came in favor of him, and then finally so the point was that there are not big rocket sciences when it comes to social change. Social media is there in all your hands. And if you are simply personally moved by the concerns that we all have discussed, very rightly discussed by Dr. Satish Kumar and Datta Madam, and also the other senior panelists. If we
Am I audible to all?
yes,
Okay,
ma'am, you
so
are.
today's panel discussion has brought us to the end of this particular um, topic, which is so important, and nobody will be spared from this particular situation, whether we are rich or poor. So the discussion has revolved around about the challenges we are facing as a humankind in the name of development, and with development the consequences. So the focus given by all the panelists were in certain broader areas where I could divide is the sustainable development, where we are developing, but at the same time thinking about our present generation and the future generation. And along with it, we also need to understand the challenges faced by the marginalized group, which is being discussed by each of the panelists, where the marginalized groups who are politically, socially, and due to their other intersectionality, they are marginalized, and how they are getting affected more due to the whole climate change and all the calamities happening uh, in and around them. Then also there is something which is very important here, is the introspection part, which Dr. Ravi Ranjan talked about, that self introspection, which is so important at this moment, where he brought into focus the things which as a country we are facing at this moment, from infant mortality to child mortality, where we are uh, ahead of many countries, and we are a hungry country where the hunger is the highest. Then he also brought into focus the farmers committing suicide, then the air we are breathing in, the water crisis, and even Northeast is not spared from this, though we are naturally one of the abundant region in the country, still we are facing this type of situation. And he also brought into certain questions like the heavy uses of fertilizers and the consequences of this fertilizers. And he also talked about green social work, so which is another very important aspect. And here he quoted Lina Dominelli, who question that the social work profession which is in turmoil at this moment. And she also questioned that the neoliberal model which is so much in focus at this moment, and we are driven by the profit motive, and which is a challenge for each one of us. How do we overthrow this whole neoliberal model of development which is encompassing all of us? Then he also talked about that this whole urbanization and industrialization leading to the negative consequences, and the need that we need to keep in view the 5 P's, where he talked about the people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And then moving to Garyashe Datta Madam's deliberation, where she very aptly talked about how climate change has created certain mental health issues like anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicidal thoughts. And PTSD so common due to the climate change, as you can see there is so many calamities happening, and those calamities leaving us with uh, people who are struggling with PTSD. Then also she talked of having that she also focused that most vulnerable groups are women and children, pregnant women, women who are going through postpartum, and emergency workers or the frontline workers in the health sector. Then she also talked about that how do we mitigate this situation in terms of advocate for or raise awareness about climate change, and how do we deal with the situations which are happening. And she also talked something very important, that is the barefoot counselors at the community level, which is so important to give the first aid when there is some kind of disaster happening. And that they are the first group of people who can talk to the people who have gone through these emergency situations. Then also she also talked about cross organizational and cross sector collaboration in terms of collaborating more with activities of NIMHANS and learning from them, and how do we uh, use these learn experiences of NIMHANS and apply it into our profession. And also she talked about evidence based research and getting that knowledge into practice. Then Satish Kumar sir talked about UNDP goal 15, and then he also talked about you know um, culture of sustainability, the how do we learn the whole concept of sustainability and teach our future generation the culture of sustainability. And he also talked about approach where our focus should be the people, not other things, and inclusion of social workers in various teams, especially in the disaster management team. Then he also talked about becoming ecologically aware. Being a social worker, we need to be, as it's a changing profession, diverse profession, so being ecologically aware. Then how implementation of the policies at the grassroots level is so important, and how do we keep tab of those implementation of the policies, and keeping a tab of those policies and how they are getting implemented will help us to tackle many unseen or unforeseen things which might happen in near future. Then one very important aspect he touched upon was that upholding the indigenous protectiveness towards the nature, and identifying the best practices of this indigenous population who are living in the forest areas or near the forest areas, and how do they cohabit with the nature, and how do we recognize them, because with industrialization and with depleting biodiversity, it is very important that we take the indigenous knowledge and try to rebuild the planet, though it is in a very bad shape at this moment, and also strengthening the grassroots level institutions, which is so important, being a professional social worker. To conclude the whole discussion talked and focused on issues which are uh, so important and need of the hour for each one of us. And here again, it is not something that we leave it to the policymakers, we leave it to the others to bring about a change. It is something we have to do it from ourselves, simply doing or making certain changes in our lives. And with this, I conclude this session. And now I would request Dr. Bijay to offer his vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So we believe that the platform, today's platform of the discussion, had a very emerging issues and the need of hour. And the discussion has come out with the various suggestions, recommendations, ideas from the esteemed panelists, and which will definitely reflect in our academia as well as in the practice. So to make this panel discussion a successful one, and the deliberation with discussion, the person behind it, I extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to all the esteemed panelists, Professor M. Gangabhushan sir from Assam University Silchar, Professor and Head M. Tineshwari Devi from Assam University Silchar, Department of Social Work, Dr. Raviranjan Kumar sir, HOD, Head of the Department of Social Work, Rajiv Gandhi University, Madam Mrs. Gadia Siddhartha, Psychological Counselor, Downtown Hospital, Guwahati, Assam, and Dr. Satish Kumar sir, Assistant Professor, Kurukshetra University, who has given their valuable inputs and with diverse component and different sub-themes of this conference panel discussion. Next, I would like to convey our heartiest gratitude and thanks to NAPSWI, National Association for Professional Social Worker in India, on behalf of Assam Downtown University Program of Social Work, as well as the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Assam Downtown University, who extend their support and accepting their collaboration for this event. So I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Sanjay Bhatt sir, the ex-president of NAPSWI, Professor R.P. Dwivedi sir, President NAPSWI, and the Vice President, Professor Sanjay Roy sir. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Honorable Dean of Studies, Madam, Professor Bandana Datta, who allowed us to conduct this event and make it successful one. I warmly extend our sincere gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor and Pro Vice Chancellor Sir of Assam Downtown University for their gesture and support to this event. I extend my sincere thanks to all the supportive staffs, my esteemed colleagues of the department, then participants, all other supportive staffs of Downtown University, and the participants from the different corners of Northeast as well as other parts of different universities, and my dear students. Not, last but not the least, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the Dean in Charge Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Patiti Mem, who support who supported us to all the way to success, make this event a successful one. So with your permission, with the permission of chairperson and all other esteemed panelists, we'd like to conclude the session here today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to request all the participants and the panelists to switch on their video for it for a video photography, please. A screenshot. I request the participant to please switch on your video. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.